Welcome, everybody, to episode number 8 of the Hockey Toolkit. I am Trevor DiCarlo.
Andrew Trimble.
Today we are going to be talking about the differences between travel hockey and high school hockey, as well as prep school and prep hockey. But before we get to go down that avenue there, just want to kind of catch up, see where things at. Coach Trimble, how's things in your world right now?
Good. We had a successful weekend. We only had 2 games, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. We do have a game on Monday. That's away down in Cape Cod. But the game on Saturday is our annual JBT game. It's an amazing event here in the Lakes region, New Hampshire. We raised $33,000 for the Cure Starts Now Foundation with our mini shootout that we do every single year. And it goes
fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's an awesome night. I mean, there's 500 fans in the building. It's great. It's awesome. And then it's a benefit too when the team wins. So we fell down 2-0 at the end of the first period. We battled back. We got to 3-2. They tied it midway in the third. We held on to overtime. We got a power play at the end of regulation. So we started the overtime 4-on-3, and Matthias Budina completed the hat trick and won it in overtime. So it was a great game here in Laconia. How about yourself, Trevor?
This let's see. So it's Sunday night. We actually, as we talked about in the pre-show, actually played probably the best hockey we've played all season long, despite losing both games. We lost one yesterday by 1, and then today by 2, with one of them being an empty netter. But it's like all of a sudden that switch kind of turned over for the players. So we don't. Again, it was just out of nowhere. So it was great to finally see a lot of the concepts and a lot of the skills and all that stuff that we have been working on start to really kick in. I mean, obviously, we would love to have it kicked in much earlier, but at least we got to see it kick in.
Could you say, you say, Trevor, that is it possible your team has 9 lives like a cat? They just keep coming back?
You know what? Well, they keep showing up despite how the seasons have gone. We've gotten our rear ends kicked quite a few times. But again, I give the kids credit because today we even played the 3rd place team in the league. They had flown in to play everybody else because they're from quite a few states away. I'm not going to say specifically who because a little bit of fun happened today where
there's cat's eyes.
Talk about gamesmanship. I know. I was so pissed. Long story short, we're down 1-0 going into intermission for the Zam cut, and the ref comes over to me and he just says, "Hey, your goalie might have." He goes, "Might not be wearing the correct cage." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean? I mean, I've seen the kid the whole time, I've been coaching him all year. Like, what are you talking about?" He goes, "I think he's got," he goes, "the other team told me, the coach asked me to check," and he goes, "I'm looking, and I think he's wearing cat eyes, the ones that aren't certified." And I'm like, "What? They asked you?" Now, a little bit backstory here. These coaches, they're from out of state. Because we had a team drop out of the league at almost at the last hour, not even at the last hour, it was well past last hour. So we had to scramble, try and find ice. I mean, I had to go to a different club to buy ice from them just to try and fit these guys' schedule in. And again, I'm the one who's doing all this work. They're not even really helping me whatsoever. So anyhow, but it is what it is. It's just part of the gig. We've played them 2 other times. Very cordial with the coaches. We talk about playing other teams, this and that. They ask about, just the area, whatever. So I'm on good terms with him. We talked to him. I mean, I talked to him before the game, and we talked about some stuff. And long story short, I look at the ref and I go, "They asked for that? Like, they asked for you to check that?" And he goes, "Yeah, they did." Now my goalie's on a heater right now. Again, so we're down only 1 goal. He's playing fantastic hockey. And I'm like, those sons of, so we go over. And I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, what is your cage? Is that certified?" And he goes, "No." I go, "How long have you been wearing it?" "Well, it's only been a couple weeks, so that's why I didn't really notice it." Luckily, he had his backup at least the cage portion on. So, ref comes over, brings his rule book over to the locker room between periods, and I walk by their coaches and they don't even look at me. Like, they don't say anything to me. And I'm like, what is, like, all of a sudden, like, you guys have already made the playoffs. We're not making the playoffs. We're not knocking you really down anything. So it was a 180. And again, all we did was play quality hockey, and they couldn't score. So, I ended up, I was pissed. My team was pissed. Luckily, he was able to switch it, but I had to burn a timeout coming out of the intermission just so that he could have an extra minute. And the refs knew, the main official, he knew what was going on. Like, he was just kind of like, couldn't believe that the coach pulled this too, especially he goes, I know. He goes, and now that I know, I have to call. I'm like, I get that. I respect that. So anyhow, we end up, like I said, we lost 3-1 with an empty netter. Kids played fantastic. Going through the handshake line. One of their kids we're going through, good game. I'm just saying, hey, good game. Safe travels. Well, one of their kids, comes over, as he's skating through, and he goes, oh, hey, coach, number so-and-so, he's running his mouth. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, I honestly don't care at this point. I'm pissed off that you guys would even do this, because I don't think they were expecting him to come back in.
Yeah.
So, because who carries around the other part of their cage?
Sure.
It's legal, So, long story, even longer. So, one of their coaches, who I never even have talked to, so I've all the 3 times we've played them and seen them, never seen this guy, just goes, yeah, you guys, he goes, yeah, your number so-and-so was running his mouth, and I looked at him, I go, you know what? I don't care. And he goes, oh, that's great. I go, you know what? If you wouldn't have, the gamesmanship, with the goalie, I get it. Did you really have to call that out at this point? Or was that just because it wasn't a safety issue? And he was like, oh, well, what do you mean? I go, he was playing really well, and you're trying to throw him off in the game. I'm like, just get out of here. And then the guy starts running his mouth, and then the kids are running their mouths at me. And I'm not going to yell at the kids. I'm not, 15, 6-year-olds. I'm not talking to them. I'm going to be the adult here. But he's just like, this and that. And I was just like, you know what, dude? It's fine. It's gamesmanship. What the? Get out of here. You know what? Everything, the whole thing was just a complete shit show on their part.
Yeah.
And the refs kind of got in between, but they talked to me afterwards and it sucks. It's stupid. And they were telling me what would make it. I'm like, I know. Okay. There are certified versions out there, but long story short, yeah, that was, I was just fuming after that. And I was just pissed off. I talked to the head coach after the game. I pulled him aside and I said, look, I chewed out the kid. I told him it wasn't acceptable for what he was saying. And he wasn't saying anything terrible, but again, he was, as I said, he just said, hey, thanks for, really trying to screw with our goalie there. And he was a passionate kid, but I told him, hey, that's not acceptable. You shouldn't be talking to coaches like that. We lost the game. Game's over. Just get through the handshake line. We can be pissed in the locker room, right? But I told him, I said, you know what, though? I don't care for, you guys doing that stuff with, the goalie's mask and this and that. And he just he never doesn't even acknowledge that they did it.
Yeah.
And I'm just he never even, won't even say yes, no. His facial expression, he would be a perfect witness for your, defense. Because, the prosecuting attorney would be oh, yeah, did this happen? He just, sit there with a blank stare and, not.
Deer in headlights.
You wouldn't even tell. Yeah. So I was just you know what? Good luck the rest of the season. And, I know you're in the playoffs, this and that. Safe travels. So
you're just that kind of stuff. It's you're such a square. Just
right.
Just go out and win the game. Stop making it punishing a kid. His parents know
right.
He bought it. It's not the likelihood that a negative thing could happen with a fraction of a centimeter on a cat's eye. It's nothing. But you know what you're doing if
right.
you're the coach. If you call that, for sure.
And again, I had a couple things I could have called. I could have easily been hey, okay, well, if we're going to play that game, can we check and make sure every kid's got a legal, neck guard on, or, their mouth guards in their mouth their entire, game.
The Marty McSorley stick rule, that kind of stuff.
Exactly, yeah. Or Jason Spezza, where he's stomping on it as he's, coming off the ice. I'm not going to get into that. I just figured, okay.
That guy's a bookworm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just come on, dude. We're playing a game. We're just... the kid's playing lights out. You guys are doing really well. I mean, my team's playing very well. And then for you to pull that stuff, you guys are already in the playoffs. You're one of the top teams in the league. And then you've got to do that just because you're not getting what you expected to get out of this game, like, just blow off, like, whatever. And again, one of their kids chirped. He's like, "Hey, we'll see you guys in the playoffs." Oh, wait, that's right. You're not in the playoffs. And I'm just like, I'm not going to even stoop to this level. Like, I give you that coach who mouths off at kids, but then I wouldn't even respect myself if I did that. So, but anyhow, the boys overall, I mean, that's only like the second time I've had a spat with a coach in probably the last 10 years. I don't even know who he was. He could have been like the video coach or something if they have one. I mean, they come with a whole entourage because they're coming from out of state. But, again, after the game, I tried to be the better person after the game as they were coming through, like, hey, talking to their kids, because they had to come by us. And I could see those kids as they were looking down the hallway like, oh shit, I got to walk by their coaches now, who we just, did this stupid thing to them. My coaches did this stupid thing. And then, we had this altercation with, verbal altercation. Again, the kids came by and I'm like, hey, good game. Good luck the rest of the way. Safe travels. Like, and some of them you could see like, oh, he's not going to like, and I did. I found the kid who had said something to me in the line about one of my teammates, or not my teammates, one of my skaters running his mouth. And I just said, hey, hey, you were the kid, right? And he goes, yeah. I was like, hey, I talked to my skater. That wasn't appropriate. So I addressed it, and, good luck the rest of the way, this and that. And he kept, okay. Like, they were, but I never saw the coach after that, the other one. And I don't know what if I probably would have said to him.
Hiding with his computer and book.
Yeah.
Looking up new
He made a beeline. Right. So, what else can we get for the next one? But yeah, it was a good weekend for the boys and girls. So it was, So I was very happy. Again, as I told them, I go, you know what? I don't care that we lost. This was the best effort overall, best team play. We started seeing stuff. I was like, this is going to be the shortest post-game speech I have, which they should all be short anyways. But yeah, so that was it. That was my weekend. Things have been going well there. And then, just kind of floating around, just taking it easy. So,
well, that's good. Sounds like a team trending in the right direction, which is always what you want to have as you get closer to the end of the season, whether you're in the playoffs or not. You want your team playing their best hockey at the end of the year. That's a showing of growth. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that brings us to our bigger topic for the day, discussing, which I've had a lot of people ask, what's the best route? And there's high school hockey, there's prep school hockey, there's U18 or U16 full season hockey, there's junior hockey, and they all kind of overlap at a certain point in your career, and it can be really confusing. So we want to dive in and kind of give some light and clarity about each situation, and then we have a great guest on later, Coach Mike Meserve of Bridgton Academy, and he's going to discuss his unique program up in northern Maine. But Trevor, let me ask you. The kids that you come in contact with for the most part, what are their preferred route? If they could choose any route to getting onto college hockey, what do they want to go through?
To get to college hockey, I mean, out here, the preferred route would be going through, going to juniors, obviously. I mean, most of them would love to just go straight to college hockey, but as you and I know, at the actual NCAA Division 1 and 3, very few and far. I mean, if you're going at 18 to D1, you're basically a NHL draft prospect. You see very few 18-year-olds in D3 just because, but most of them, they want to go the junior route. I mean, they also, play, that's why they're playing club. But that being said, we do have some that do go to, some of the topper high school programs in the state and play for those programs too.
Yeah, there's those routes all overlap each other, and they're kind of confusing sometimes. And every kid's situation is different. One kid might not be really strong academically, might need a year where he can take some college credits to boost his overall GPA, might need to take his SATs again. So every situation is different. But did you know, in some of the recent stuff that has been online by either Glenn Heffernan or by Jeff Nygaard a couple of years ago, he did some stuff on NCAA Division I commitments. Outside of the USHL and the North American Hockey League, where do the vast majority of NCAA Division I commitments come from?
I feel like I know the answer now because of where what we've discussed. But outside of those two, I would say probably prep school.
No, actually, it's U16 full season hockey. U16 AAA is the third behind the USHL. The NA will be U16 full season. That's
So we say
in the US.
So we're saying that that's where the commitments are coming from. I mean, they clearly can't be jumping right from 16U to college.
No, that's where the commitments are coming from. So they.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
all right. I misunderstood the question.
That's okay. I'm
We'll
not going
edit
to
that
hold
out
it
so I
against
sound
you. I'm not
smarter.
going to take it personal.
No, that's all right. Well, I can edit it out and make me sound smarter. Make me sound smarter. Yeah.
A lot of those kids, they make that commitment at 16, and then they're given a path to go on to, the BCHL
Right.
or the North American League or the USHL or whatever team owns their rights. But the third most commitments at the Division I level comes out of U16 full season hockey. And then you do see some high school hockey, but that's really Minnesota high school hockey, which is very different experience than what we have out east here. And then out east, you do see a decent amount of U18, and then you do see a lot of kids in prep school who, but you see a lot of those in prep school ones are really high-end academic achievers who may go to an Ivy League school because of their academic standards. So every kid's a little bit different. Now, navigating out east here with high school hockey is really tough because it's a shortened season. It's only 18 or 20 games. It's only about 3 months long. And when you're looking at a U16 full season team, that's somewhere in the ballpark of 60 games or 55 games. And then it's 8 months of training. Junior hockey is similar to that. What do you have out west, out in the Chicago area? How long is a high school season? How long is a comparable U16 or U18 season?
So, I mean, as I've said this before, probably not on the podcast, but I mean, I tell others I feel like we do it backwards, because right now our club hockey, U16, the 16, U16, U15, and U18, they all compete basically during the same time as the high schools. In most programs, you have to choose one or the other, especially if you're going to one of the top high schools in the area. We've got a lot of like Chicago Catholic League schools, which are still up there, but not as much as we've got some others like Loyola Academy, St. Viator, Stevenson High School. So some of these some are preps, some are just public high schools themselves, but it's one or the other. So we don't really have we're going to shut down our club season now, from here to here so that you can go play for your high school. It's more or less, you've got to choose one or the other, which I think it's not right, because I think it's high school hockey in general provides such a great atmosphere. I mean, again, the model is, I'm sure both will agree, is what Minnesota does. They do it, just, it's a completely different beast. It's a completely different atmosphere. Being able to play in front of, like, granted, it's Minnesota, so that's really not much, a whole lot you can do in the winter, so you go and watch the hockey games, right? But that's what I think is the right and the best model. That's my opinion. There's no actual scientific stats behind that, but yeah, here in the Midwest, just to kind of go back to your question, not veer off too far, it's one or the other, and they both start around the same time. They've had to implement rules on when tryouts can be, because one group would try to have a tryout before the other. So it basically got to the point where neither team could have or hold their own tryouts for their teams until a certain point. So it's really hectic. There's a lot of chaos behind it right now. It's not the best. It could be a lot better for the kids, but right now, like here in the Midwest and Illinois at least, they butt heads. They combined. So what about over here on the East Coast?
Yeah, so the East Coast is similar. Especially here in New England, where you have a lot of full season U16, U18, and those kids generally choose those pathways if it's at a high level, a AAA level, rather than playing for their high school. And that's created kind of a watered down effect at the high school level, where you have a lot of kids who probably shouldn't be playing as much as they should, or maybe are younger players getting a more regular shift than they would be 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Next stat for you. Next question. Okay. All right. So we talked about NCAA Division I commitments, NCAA Division II and Division III commitments. Where do the majority of those kids come from?
I'm still going to go with the USHL NA. And then I'm going to follow into, I'm sure it'll probably be this, 16U, 18U, but I would say the league wise, I would say for sure the EHL leads the way.
Yeah, so Division two and Division three commitments, the vast majority come out of junior. About 95, 96, 77% comes out of junior. There's some prep school kids who do make it onto NCAA rosters. You'll have the one or two outliers a year who come right from high school hockey. Um, that make an NCAA roster at the Division two or Division three level. There was one at Revere this year. We were talking to him. He's from here in New Hampshire, Carter Poulin, and I think he's doing okay. And there was another down at
Yeah.
Nichols College. Alex Gasick is the coach down there, and um, he made it as a freshman at a Rhode Island high school. But every program's different. You get into the higher Division three, like in the SUNYAC or in the NESCAC, and there's a lot of different standards and a lot of older kids who are playing at that level. So you do see a lot of North American Hockey League players who are making Division two and Division three rosters. The EHL accounts for about 1 in every 5 freshmen, so about 25% or 20% of all NCAA Division two or Division three players come out of the EHL. And then the USPHL
Yes.
Premier has a lot of kids too, and the NCDC. The NCDC, they like to, and I'm going to call them out now. They like to pump their tires a little bit and say they have a lot of Division one commitments, but the vast majority of their league. It is. It's the mostly Division two
we know.
and Division three.
Yeah, we know. Having written about it and all that stuff, and then you got, as you mentioned, Jeff Nygaard. He put out a great, informal but formal statistics about where they're coming from, and yeah, you and I read the same stuff. Yeah, it's kind of funny how it's like, oh, we're doing this, and then it's like, well, just because the kid played one game for your league doesn't mean, and then he went to somewhere else that was, maybe a better fit. But we don't have to beat those guys up too bad this one. So,
I think that raises a good question for a lot of parents out there. They want to see that their kids get onto college hockey. That's the goal.
Yes.
When they see them start playing hockey and they're dreaming of playing for, the big hockey schools when they're a mite, and how do you get them there? And I think the path really, every kid is different. Every kid is different. Academics have to be a priority. You will not get into college hockey if you are not academically eligible to play college hockey. And if the more successful you are academically, the more opportunities you're going to have. So, if you have a bottom end GPA and you struggle with your SATs, then you're only going to have a handful of schools that you could even get into. And now, do they even have a hockey program? Do they even like you as a hockey player? So you really got to make yourself more attractive to colleges by doing well academically. And I think that fits into that question of, am I a prep school kid? Do I want that academic route? Do I need that academic support? And if you're doing well and you don't need that, then maybe a U16 or U18 full season that transitions later into junior hockey is the path for you. I know that, looking at, down the road for my kid, if he decides to play hockey in 2 or 3 years, we'll probably travel all the way up to that U14 season, and then we'll have to make that decision. But I'm not going to think too far ahead. We're just going to have fun, play it. You don't get too worried about it, and see where it takes them.
So what is a typical, and again, when we talked with Mike, when we're talking about prep schools, what age groups are we really talking about here? Because, you hear about some prep schools that are legitimately from freshman year to senior year, where we've also talked with in the past, we've had a couple guests who talked about, well, I just basically did an extra year after senior year of high school. So when we talk about prep school, is there a difference? Is there not? Again, for myself, I'm genuinely curious too how it works out, especially on the East Coast, because this is where you see a lot more of those, post senior years, an extra year of basically schooling. So I don't know if you can maybe give us a little bit more of a education on that. No pun intended.
Yeah. So prep school it's really just like a traditional high school, except there's generally smaller class sizes. It costs a lot of money to go to. And
that I know, yes. And, not that because I went, but
me either. But and then there's a real commitment to the athletic portion of their calendars. So it's really from kids who are 14 into 19 years old. They can actually repeat in postgraduate a year after high school if they want to make themselves more academically attractive to colleges. And that's, I think, where the tough place for a lot of kids is. So, we have a number of kids who are really attracted to go to prep schools, but they may have played in our 14s or 15s program, and they make that jump too early. And now they're competing against a 19-year-old who's a man. And they're a skilled player,
Right.
but they're not going to get the ice time they would if they were playing U16 hockey or U15 hockey or even U18 in some instances. So I think every kid is different. You really have to judge your kid, judge what he's able to do, and then consider all the other circumstances like the academics and the campus life and things like that. Now, one thing about prep schools that's interesting, and a lot of prep schools make you do this, is they make you play 3 sports. So, we've had a number of kids come into our program and they want to play a split season hockey in the fall for, the Wolves, and they're at Tilton or New Hampton or they're at Holderness. But they got to play soccer, and they're like, I don't play soccer, but I'm just sitting on the bench because I got to play a fall sport, and I got to play. I'm going to do weightlifting in the spring just to make sure I stay in shape for hockey. So, like I said, there's a commitment to the school there that's a little bit different than if you were to play 16s or 18s, and then certainly the age gap is more magnifiable, certainly at the prep school level.
So what would you, and again, as we've discussions with some of the players that we've had on the past, what is it typically your post senior year called? What do you guys, is that, what's the terminology that you guys use for that?
They generally call that like either repeating their senior season or a postgraduate year.
Okay, so postgraduate year. And now out in the prep schools, especially again on the East Coast, do they, when you're talking like, do freshmen potentially like in a 14, 15-year-old, can they play up against those post-senior graduates, or are they in their own kind of, like, is there an actual post-senior league?
No, there's a varsity.
How does that
There's
work?
a varsity, and generally there's either a JV or a varsity B, they call it. And,
Okay.
it's really a struggle for that 14 or 15-year-old kid who's not physically mature to compete against an 18 or 19-year-old who's already played 4 years of high school hockey. So that's where you oftentimes see that, a kid you can kind of be setting up your kid for a real tough year sometimes if you send them too early to the prep school. And what we've experienced too is that, a lot of kids who do play that varsity B or that JV, it's coached by a teacher and it's more like an intramural program. So they're always generally looking for more ice time, like whether it be on a split season team or a 16s team where they can fill in some games because it's not the same as playing on the varsity team.
We're talking again, you mentioned a few different East Coast teams, prep schools that you guys have players in. What is the difference, I guess you'd say then, between the prep school of like that group and compared to, say, Shattuck St. Mary's, which I think is one of the more well-known, I guess, private schools as well, but more well-known hockey powerhouse, prep schools. Is there a difference? Is there not any difference? I don't know if they do like a post-senior season at Shattuck, but
yeah, I'm not certain if they do a post-senior season either, but that's more of an academy model, which we've really seen pop up, following the suit of Shattuck St. Mary's. You've seen Elite Hockey Academy, which is in Connecticut. You've seen Bishop Kearney. You've seen Cyclones Academy here in New Hampshire, or Seacoast Performance Academy. Our Wolves program has an academy where we have kids who do their online schooling here at the rink, and then they're on the ice during the day. And those are great in terms of their hockey development. If a kid can handle an online academic component, and all our kids with the COVID year have some experience with it. And
yeah, that's the norm. Yeah,
and if a kid can handle it, now instead of doing my schoolwork during the day, if I can be on the ice for an extra 2 or 3 hours, some of our athletes. We had a kid, Dima Nahorny from Belarus, who I think a couple of times here slept in the rink, and he was on the ice with like every team getting 20 or 30 hours of practice a week. He seemed like he would just jump on, like, oh, Dima's here for practice. Great. Well, put him on the 5th line. No, put him on the 1st line, whatever. It's like, so kids can really get a lot of ice time in those academy programs, and you'll see a huge jump in their on ice abilities. But if they can't handle it academically, then it's not the right fit.
Right. So there is a difference between an academy and a post or as a prep school, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and those academies like Shattuck and Bishop Kearney, they're playing a traditional 16s or 18s schedule. So they're playing 60 games, 70 games. They're on my hockey rankings. They're competing for nationals. Culver's like that too, out in Indiana.
Yep.
So they're a different beast. how they would stack up against like a powerhouse here at Prep in New England, like a Kimball Union or a Cushing. It'd be a good game. I mean, they would, it would be a really good game, but they would be a little bit different age. One team would be older and one team would be a little bit younger.
Okay. Yeah, because again, I mean, that's even for myself, I never just going through some of our episodes already, especially with players we've talked about, their post senior years. I mean, I knew that it was big on the East Coast, and I remember about reading more about it, like in lacrosse of all sports, that parents were like holding their kids back purposely and then sending them to like a prep school before they sent them to college so that they could be, one of the older kids, kind of like how they, we do it with juniors. So it's a little bit different, but they get those extra 2 years. But again, I never understood outside of, like, okay, like how are the Mighty Ducks kids? How are they playing in Minnesota? What is that relative out here? I mean, here in Illinois, we only have Lake Forest Academy that I can think of off the top of my head, which has its own like academy / prep like team, and they do have like a varsity team as well. But the other closest one that again I can think of is Culver, and that's growing up. It was always Culver Academy this, Culver Academy that, So I mean they're good. Don't get me wrong. So Shattuck, Culver, and that was like all I knew. And then, but like you'd hear about like Thayer Academy where Ronick and Amante went to. And that is an academy, not a prep school, correct?
No, Thayer's a prep school. So they're
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean they're playing, probably Jeremy Ronick was on the soccer team or something too. I'm sure there's some wild stories of that. But the prep schools play traditionally between a 20 to 30 game schedule. It starts in early November. That's when they have their tryouts, and it goes all the way till early March. Whereas those academy programs start really in September and go a little bit later, all the way to the nationals. Like if you go for U18 nationals, I remember one year I was out in Pittsburgh scouting that, and it was Culver and maybe Team Wisconsin was in the finals, something like that.
Okay.
So Culver was, even though that's a school, there was a physical school there. They're actually competing for the USA Hockey Nationals at the 18th level.
Right. Yeah, I think actually, I don't think Ronick played a full, like, clearly. I mean, I know he went to the Q after, I think even before he was drafted, but, and then right to the Blackhawks. But it's still some touchy subject for some people for him seeing him leave. But
that's always the other thing too on that end of that. And the reason why the numbers in the EHL are certainly so high for Division II and Division III commitments is because if a kid isn't a Division I kid, when they graduate at the prep school level, if he's not a Division I kid and his rights aren't owned in the NA or the USHL, the vast majority of college hockey is right here on the East Coast, especially at Division II and Division III. And when you're playing in a league like the EHL or the USPHL or the NCDC or whatever it may be, college coaches really want to see you competing at that point against people of equal size and age and ability. So seeing a postgraduate kid sometimes against a 14-year-old, that's not what they want to see. They want to see a 19-year-old competing against a 20-year-old, 20 versus 20. And that's where Bridgton Academy is kind of unique. They're all postgraduate kids, and they play a U18 schedule or they play junior teams. So they're not playing a lot of the traditional preps, and they're not playing any 16th teams. So that makes Bridgton kind of a unique part of that space.
Well, when we take a listen here to our interview with Coach Mike over in Bridgton.
Hi, welcome to the podcast, Coach Mike Meserve of Bridgton Academy. Coach runs a great program out in northern Maine with a lot of postgraduates in his program. And we're going to discuss on this segment the difference between prep school hockey, high school hockey, and junior hockey, and give some clarification to some of our listeners at home on what prep school hockey is all about. So welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Thank you guys for having me. Truly an honor to be here. Really appreciate it.
So, Coach, if you can just run me through a little bit what the model is at Bridgton Academy. It's kind of a special situation you guys have up in northern Maine, and for the listeners at home, it'd be great to give some light on what you guys are all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Bridgton started out about a little over 200 years ago, 1808, was a traditional prep school like almost every other one in New England. 1960s, well before I was born, thank God, Bridgton made a change to become the only one-year all-male postgraduate school in the country. And what that basically means is about 99% of our student body little different every year, has already graduated high school, primary school, and they come to Bridgton for that true gap year. And we run a really different program because one, we have an older campus, but two, what we want to do is we want guys to be able to experience a college-like model, with structure provided and things like that. But we want them to experience what a college campus is going to look like for them, both academically, athletically, socially, in the dorms, on campus. It's a really great place to work, and it's a great place to develop and grow in multitude of areas because the program is different for every individual. So, but I love working here and teaching here. It's the most rewarding experience I've had in my education career and hockey career has been these last 15, 16 years. So.
That's great. Now, one of the other routes you could take in terms of junior hockey earlier or playing full season U18 later, like what makes Bridgton, the ideal route in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's not another year of high school. One, if someone came to Bridgton and they just talked about hockey, I think that this isn't the right route for you. What we see from data is that, especially in males, about 50% or sometimes more that go directly from high school directly to college do not graduate. And certainly there's a big indicator there that says that it's a skills based a lot of times: organization, time management, attention to detail, just problem solving in general. And I think what I said before is that COVID definitely played a factor on eliminating a lot of those things because guys didn't have to do that during some of the COVID academic years. So for Bridgton, what we want to target is, we always say it's for college and beyond. Some of the lessons you get here, certainly you're going to come in and be a better student. Certainly you're going to come in, you're going to be bigger, stronger, faster, and a better hockey player. But that maturity, things that maybe a lot of 18-year-old males don't see, their parents do, I think. But that maturity, the time management, that problem solving that I talked about is really the growth here. To help build confidence in these guys, not just as learners, but also as young men and men in some cases. So I think junior routes is an outstanding route as well. It's just what they need to live on their own. For us, we have 6 dormitories. Every dormitory is supervised by a dorm family, faculty that kind of supervises that dorm in both socially and dorm checks and helping them through navigate the whole dorm process, which we've also seen from talking to some universities that a lot of the young men going to college have never had to learn to live with somebody, to have a roommate, to, maybe turn their own vacuum on, things like that, which, anything that can help alleviate stress and anxiety, we want to try to help these guys. And if that drops that anxiety and stress and it helps them have a better experience. So.
That's a great point you brought up because when we're recruiting a player, it's not just about the hockey. The hockey, obviously, they're there because they want to play hockey, but it's the maturation of a kid as they get into a 4-year school. And so often we see kids that if they go right to college, they're not going to be successful in college. They're not socially and academically ready to do it. So by playing hockey and doing something they're passionate about and building relationships, maybe taking a couple of college credits, now we're finding like we have a kid who's in our program for 2 or 3 years. It's a completely different human being and they're ready to conquer the world. What do you find is the biggest jump you see in a kid in that 10-month span or a 9-month span when they're with your program?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I wish I could tell you there's one route because every kid gets something different. We have kids that, we have a full-time strength and conditioning coach. He's a faculty member at this campus. He's available all day. Some kids come in here with zero training on nutrition and actual fitness and things like that. So you see kids make those sort of jumps there. You have kids that have dealt with the MCAS and different standardized testing their entire, academic career that have never really learned how to be a student, how to advocate. I think that's, the teacher in me, of what I see is the guys who build confidence, that actually realize that they are pretty smart people. Their processes are, how they process is different compared to some classmates, but they're not dumb. They have the ability to be successful, to have their own thoughts, to support those thoughts, to actually get something out of the academic process. And it's you said it's amazing over that 8-month period that we offer, 2 semesters of academics, that kids will go home for break and have a conversation of something they learned in school, and at graduation you see parents in tears because the kid is excelled in areas that he just wasn't able to. And again, it's I think public schools do an outstanding job, but as someone who taught public school, I had 25, 30 kids in the class, some classes, and at Bridgton you're looking at 8 to 15, 16 kids in the class. So as a teacher, I love it because I know my learners. I know what works for them. I don't teach to a standard. I teach for what my kids need. And we say, I guess the big part for me is we build an academic toolbox for what a kid needs. And if that's a way to write papers, or we have an academic support center like most colleges and university has, that does everything from helping kids who have IEPs and 504s to kids who just want a paper edited, or I don't know how to write a thesis, or I'm feeling stressed and overloaded with my academics. And once they kind of figure out that route that makes them successful, they take off. So it is great because we see kids hit all sorts of academic milestones here that, as everything from a kid who qualifies to go to a Princeton or an Ivy League school to a kid who actually gets acceptances in the college and is successful for the first time. So
that's really cool. Now, a hockey question for you. What do you see in you're a longtime coach. What do you see in the biggest change in the game in your time in coaching? What is the biggest transition, biggest jump in the game?
Wow, that's a great question. I always tell the guys my first year playing mites, and I'm getting old now as I realize saying this, is I played with a half shield my first year in mites. So I don't know if that made my parents really cool or bad parents. I'm not sure. So, but I think the one part is that there's the biggest jump is the level of competition now. I think it's there is 1,000 kids that have hockey talent, but there's not 1,000 kids that have the effort and attitude to utilize that talent effectively. And my recruiting questions when I talk to coaches, when I talk to teachers or whoever we talk to about the kid it's what kind of kid is he? Is he a team player? Does he have a good attitude? Is he coachable? What's his effort like in the classroom? What's his attendance like? Those sorts of things are starting to matter to help differentiate between kids who want the same thing. And there's a lot of guys who can skate like to win and shoot the puck and beautiful goaltending technique, but if they're just not a good strong worker and a good teammate, the next step is almost impossible. And I think that's something we have the availability because our season runs from August till March on ice, and you see guys that the light bulb comes on and it clicks, and it's like I need to work harder, or I have to show up 5 minutes earlier, or I need to pick my own locker up. Those little attention to detail things, I think, is probably the hardest for a lot of our guys to grow. And I think that's the secret to it, is that the development is not your skill development. A lot of time it's your attitude and your effort. So
that's great. Trevor, what do you got for coach?
Can you explain like the day in the life of a typical student within your program right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Bridgton still, our basketball team is excellent, still plays in the prep school league. So our school follows kind of a hybrid of prep school athletics, but academically, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, the academic day runs from 8 o'clock to about 2:50. Wednesday, the day runs from 8 o'clock till noon. The time in between, I think the biggest thing, and I know that some guys struggle with this, is when they take their 4 classes, and those 4 classes meet 4 times a week out of a 5-day academic week. Some days they have all 4 of their classes. Other days they have 1 or 2 classes. So during that downtime, and from experience and from talking with colleges and university, that downtime becomes a big, big, big problem for some kids. And for some kids, it becomes an absolutely incredible time for them to succeed. So we try to utilize their downtime. If we play in a tournament, we have 4 games over a weekend, and a kid has an 8 a.m. class on Monday and he doesn't have an 11 till 11 a.m. his next class. That downtime could be used like, geez, I just need a nap, or my hip flexors are tight. I really need to see our athletic trainer, and our athletic trainer is available, all day as well for individual appointments and treatments. Like I said, with our strength coach is also available to help with everything from stretching to different types of things. So we want those guys to use that downtime to be successful. And as a teacher and as a coach, a lot of times it's, you need to go get a paper edited, or, hey, it's great that you're going to get a paper edited. Every student here is also assigned a college counselor that kind of takes over as a parent, that once they apply to schools, the college counselor gets all the paperwork, all the references, test scores, everything sent out to the schools so the parents don't have to worry about it. So the downtime, it can be as busy as they need, but it also can be a time to, like I said, go back and get a nap or grab a snack in the dining hall. And one of the perks for us is with the rink on campus here, the students have access to that rink during the day if they want to go out and get a skill session in with the coaching staff, or maybe they get a new pair of skates, they want to skate and try to break it in and shoot around a little bit. Because we're an older campus, we have the availability to offer that to our guys, and our rink staff and coaching staff does an exceptional job making sure those guys are certainly being safe, but being productive when they go out there. But hockey-wise, at the end of the day, we're on the ice anywhere between 5 and 6 days a week, depending on our game schedule. All of our athletics follow an NCAA model, which basically means for every 6 days of practice or games, you have to have a 7th day off for recovery. All of our athletics follow an NCAA model, which basically means for every 6 days of practice or games, you have to have a 7th day off for recovery. But traditionally, if we play just a Saturday, Sunday, we probably will have a Monday will be an off day or a strength and conditioning stretching day. But we will practice usually from 3:30 till anywhere between 5 and 5:30 because we have so much ice available to us. Wednesdays we might go on a little bit earlier and do skill sessions or systems because we have time. And then the big part that our kids have advantage is when they're not on the ice and not in class. They get the joy of Western Maine. They get free golf that's 2 miles up the road at the country club. They get free skiing at the ski mountain in town. We're on long lakes, so we've gone swimming and canoeing and ice fishing. And, there's salmon running in that lake, and where there's tons of hiking and cross country skiing and snowshoeing. And again, it's that overall package of building for these guys. Of everything that they want to see. And I think the diversity of our campus is, sure, we got a bunch of New Englanders who've seen snow, but it's always great when you see a kid who has never seen an inch of snow in his life show up. And, most of us are wearing flip-flops and he thinks he's on the Arctic Circle, running from it's kind of fun too. So, but the day is.
I went ice fishing one time.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun.
Yeah. I couldn't stand after about an hour.
Yeah. You gotta, there's
got to pace yourself, mix in water,
We last year we were ice fishing right off our point here, off our beach at school, and caught a couple bass. My friend is a Maine wildlife guide. He cut the bass up, put it in a fish stew, and then threw the rest of the fish on the ice, and the bald eagles came down and grabbed them 15 feet from us. It was a pretty amazing experience, and that's awesome when those types of things happen that we can provide for the guys. But it's when it's academic times, we expect our guys to be involved in the academics. When it's recovery and rest, there's time for that. So we're not going to micromanage their day because that's not what they're going to see in college. So there is mandatory study hall. So it's Sunday night through Thursday nights from 8 to 9:30. If you ask alums what they dislike the most about Bridgton, it's probably study hall. But then if you ask them in college what has helped them the most, it's also study hall. So it's the ability to take out some work and get it done after a long day of school, practices, travel, whatever, it helps the guys. So, great question though.
For sure. No, I like that. And then I guess for you, so you're both a teacher and a coach. What do you currently teach?
Yeah, so I teach in the humanities. I've taught, this year I'm teaching the American West. I'm teaching right now. I taught history of New England. I've taught in the past American Civil War. Military literature was another really fun course to see and teach. We don't offer a lot of courses like U.S. history, biology, because these guys already have a transcript coming in to say they've taken those classes. So we want to offer them classes that, one, enhance their transcript, but at the same time have kind of a more of a college specific field course versus a general studies. For students who have the ability, we have what we call a CAP program, and that's a college matriculation program, which basically means that the kids take these certain courses that they get a transcript from Plymouth State University, St. Joseph's College, or University of Southern Maine. So things like, intro to psychology or Vietnam War or digital media. There's a bunch of math and English, but for me, I'm a history guy. Love the history part. My dream one day, or digital media. There's a bunch of math and English, but for me, I'm a history guy. Love the history part. My dream one day is to live at Gettysburg when I retire and just cut grass out there. That's my fantasy. So
It's a lot of grass, but
yeah, a lot of grass. I'll be all right with that.
So how do you balance as well as teaching? I mean, I guess it's no different than any other job that we have, but obviously you're shaping still young, moldable minds. But going from being a teacher, but also then their coach on the ice.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wear a lot of hats. Every faculty member here does, whether it's coaching or admissions or whatever. I make it pretty clear. I'm not too hard to read when the attitude needs to be what it needs to be. But it is a challenge sometimes to juggle what you need to do. But for me, it's when I'm in teaching, I really don't think about hockey too much. I don't think about recruit calls. I don't think about anything. But then once I'm done with my academic responsibility, the hat completely changes, and I get into that mode of, as all coaches and general managers and stuff get to what you can do to enhance the program, and sometimes they overlap. Sometimes I'll be in my office at the ice arena, and a kid will come up and need some help with some academic work, and thankfully we have the flexibility and I have the experience at this point in my life to juggle both, and also the personal stuff too. As a teacher and coach, anybody who's involved with kids like this, and I think it's very important to understand that these guys are people too. They're not just students, they're not just players, and I can't see them that way. And whether it's homesickness or significant other breaks up or has problems at home, it's you wear a lot of hats for these guys. And for us at Bridgton, there's a great connection that we have. That we have an alumni game every year for hockey, and there's 50 something alums that come back and play, and it's really neat watching kids who graduated a year or two before, who you've connected with, now being able to connect a different way. And then there's other alums who are older that are showing up, introducing you to their wives or their children, and understanding what connection you have. But I think for me, it's whatever my moment is there, whether it's a coach, a teacher, someone who's helping them edit a paper or helping them through a problem, personal or otherwise. It's you make yourself available, and that's how you trust builds, I should say. And for us, it's myself and my wife, who also works here. It's not unusual to see guys at our dining room table some nights. And I always tell the guys, even if you never play hockey again, you're still one of our boys, and that's an important part for them to understand and realize the level of trust that we have in them, and hopefully they have in us. So, but no, great question there, Trevor. That's a great one.
Yeah, no, that's all sounds fantastic. That's pretty much all I got question-wise right now.
Well, thanks a ton, Coach, for coming on. You run a great program up at Bridgton. It's been exciting the last couple of years to see, the momentum you guys have created up there, and the team keeps getting stronger, it seems, every time I see you guys. So thank you very much for coming on. Good luck the rest of the way, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, guys. It's been an honor to talk to you guys.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on.
The opportunity.
All right, Trevor. So what'd you think of Coach Mike at Bridgton, and what was kind of enlightening for you?
First of all, unfortunately, the listeners, this is only a listening experience, not a visual, but epic beard. Love the beard. Definitely looks like he's been growing that one for a while, but I was it was very fascinating to me, especially, learning how the day-to-day life works as a postgraduate player. Sorry, not postgraduate. That sounds like we're way too far advanced in college, but as a post-senior, especially I was interested from a coaching perspective, not only as for the players, but for him as well, as being a teacher and a coach. And again, with living on the dorm, like within the dorms and such like that, I can only, he even said it himself, with the different hats he has to wear. And I can't even imagine, just being a single coach, the different hats that I have to wear. Whereas he's got to do it not only as a teacher too, but also, if he's running a dorm, overseeing it. So I really enjoyed it. It was very informative for me. So, thanks again to Coach Mike for coming out. But what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that he runs a unique program. And, Bridgton, in my 10 years here in New Hampshire, Bridgton was always a name that has been in Maine forever. It's got a school history that date back over 200 years, he said. But about...
I thought he was kidding at first, but I know he was not kidding.
I
thought it was like, oh, we're real old school.
They're playing hockey sticks with like 2x4s back then on a frozen pond somewhere.
Jesus was the goalie and he was saving everything. Oh, we just lost our Christian group.
Yeah, they're out of here.
Anyhow, sorry, followers. Yeah, my bad. Sorry.
And in the mid-2000s, or maybe like 2009, 8, somewhere around that ballpark, John Lounsbury was the coach there, and he did a really good job with that program. They had 2 teams at that time, and then they went through a little bit of a change. It became a huge expansion in junior hockey, and junior hockey got younger, and there was so many leagues popping up in like 2010, 2011, 12. There was a big shift here on the East Coast. And Bridgton, it became a little bit tougher for them to recruit. And they kind of took a little bit of a slide in terms of, not only the teams that they could play, but also like the strength of their schedule and their ability to recruit kids. But the last 3-4 years, they've gotten stronger every year. And I really credit Coach Mike for doing a great job there. He's really tied into that program. And they've had some good coaches in the past, but he's really built on some of their success that was laid in front of them. So it's been fun to watch that program.
And again, it sounded really, it was all interesting and new to me, as we've already been discussing, previously earlier in this episode. So like I said, I can't, thank him enough for coming on and explaining more about his program, but also, how the whole prep model works.
Absolutely. That brings us to our 5 myths for the week. Are you ready to go, Trevor?
I'm gonna do the best I can here. We'll see how it goes. But,
now we're both. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're both high school hockey player alumni. I played at Manasquan High School in Manasquan, New Jersey. You played high school hockey where, Trevor?
I was at Bartlett High School in Bartlett, Illinois. So yeah, we're both alum.
We both
of high school hockey.
We both played high school hockey. So I thought it'd be a good topic of discussion: the 5 myths of high school hockey.
All right. Yeah. You do I got to start or you got to start here?
I got number 1, the development model. Okay. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what we have here in New Hampshire. They only play games on Wednesdays and Saturday nights. They have Sundays off. And I remember talking to a coach in, the lobby at the Merrill Fay Arena, and he was like, players have such a great opportunity to get better. They skate 6 days a week, and we have all these amenities and this and that. And I was like, yeah, but I know how I plan out my week for a junior schedule. I got 5 days of practice, and I can go a battle day. I can do details. I can do power play, penalty kill, all these things leading up to our 2 weekend games. If I had to do practice, day before a game practice, then game, then the day after a game, and then the day before a game, and then a game, where do I fit in skills? Where do I fit in a lot of different things in terms of the development model for making those players better? So I always think the high school development model is actually flawed. They should try to change it more like the way the junior teams and college teams, the way they do their development model. And I think they would have some better players, and players would be more attracted to playing at that level. Your thoughts?
My thing is with the development, again, as we talked about earlier, just kind of the difference between high school hockey here, even in the Midwest, and I'm using the Chicagoland area, for example. I think players right now, depending on the schools, they're getting more out of the club level out here. especially with, the amount of reps and amount of touches they get. We've got some high schools that practice twice a week. We've got, club teams at the same, midget levels, age groups that are on the ice 3-4 times a week. The amount of games, there's probably there's overlap there, with the amount, quality or quantity wise. But again, it's, we're playing also, a lot of these schools, sometimes they're watered down, as you mentioned before. And again, coaching wise, I don't want to drag anyone under the mud because I think there's great coaches at all levels. But you tend to see more of the, again, unless you're playing in, some of the top high school programs in this state, you do see a lot of those more quality coaches that are going to be at the club level because there's just more going on. Compensation wise, sometimes it's more. Now, again, it all depends, but I would say yes in the sense of I agree that development wise, you've got at least out here in Chicago, while everybody's trying to win, you get more ice that is geared towards skill development, that is geared towards, concept development. Because again, you've got kids that are 14, 15 who they're not going to be on, unless they're on varsity right away, they're still developing. And I think that's kind of well, I won't use that one, but I'll say that. But yeah, that basically, I don't disagree with what you said. And I think that, again, depending on where you are, what state you live in, this and that, but it depends on the school that you're going to. And it depends on what your options are at that age group and with where you live. So I'm not going to say I disagree because I don't disagree. But I'm also not going to say it's 100% fact. How's that sound? I think this is the first time where I'm not completely on board. It's not that I'm against it, but I think, again, where we've got high schools out here who are on the ice more than I am on the ice. Yeah. So,
and there could be some,
it all depends.
In certain states, you might play a schedule that's Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
But I heard in New Hampshire, it's a real tough one. That Wednesday, Saturday slots, it's like, and then not to mention, you mentioned, the development. I mean, physically, that's the prime age for, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 to be in the gym. And when can you fit in workouts if your schedule's like that? So I think there's some room for flexibility, and maybe if I could change it a little bit, I would change that here in New Hampshire. What do you got for number 2, Trevor?
Number 2 is essentially high school hockey is not as good of an experience as club hockey. And I find that out here, again, and I'm speaking from where I'm at and where I live, I go and watch 18U games, AAA, AA, and who's up in the stands? It's mom and dad, or maybe your girlfriend or whatever, your significant other. That's about it, really. But I've also been to some really good, again, not all, but some good high school hockey games where it's literally just packed to the brim with, your schoolmates, now your girlfriends, your parents, like all of that combined. And I think that's what truly makes the high school hockey experience great. Now, unfortunately, not every school out here in Chicago has that opportunity. But the ones that do and that I've been at, and again, Bartlett High School, freshman year, JV, we went to state finals. We were in the state finals, the championship, and we played a good Glenbrook South team, who had more upperclassmen than us, but I'm not judging. And long story short, I think we were down like 5-1 after the, going into the third or something, and like, but going out there, like, it felt like half the school was there, and this is all at the edge where the Steel used to play, Blackhawks used to practice inside their their NHL rink, and it was just packed with people, and again, half the kids there could care less what was going on, but it was a social event, but still, it was awesome playing in front of that. I'd never experienced that before. I had chills, like, then when we're getting our butts kicked, like half of everybody left, but I'm now, like last year, my assistant coach and I, we went to a couple games. We went to St. Viator, which is a private school out here in the Chicagoland area. It used to be part of the Catholic League school. They're now part of the Scholastic Hockey League, which they're doing a phenomenal job. I know their hockey director, Tim Benz. He's actually my boss for my club team right now, but he's done a great job transforming that. Went to 2 of their games that they played in, and it was just like the atmosphere was just unreal. It's something that, again, you don't experience. The students are there, parents are there. You got students from both schools there. It's just so much more than you get out of the AA level, even AAA. So, the myth that high school hockey is just kind of, it's not as fun. The atmosphere. And again, you don't hear it too often, but because I was pressed for time to try and come up with my myth, that was mine. So, I mean, that's where I was at with that.
No, and I agree with you. I think when it's done right, high school hockey can be a really special time for a lot of kids, and you can have that, the fire engines if you win a state championship coming through town, and you got a packed barn, pep band, the whole thing. It can be a really, really great experience. So I agree with you. I would encourage, if you're in a position, like you said, if you get an opportunity to coach high school hockey, I see a lot of guys who are kind of hold on to that position here in New Hampshire, and make the most of it, because it can be one of the kid's best 4 years of his life for sure.
Absolutely.
All
right. So what do you got for number 3?
Number 3, I got Minnesota versus the world. As you mentioned earlier, Minnesota high school hockey does it right. Their high school hockey is the level that you can see kids getting drafted from the NHL out of Minnesota high school hockey, get drafted into the USHL right out of Minnesota high school hockey. So that's a different beast. It's almost like a category you have to kind of put into its own category. But so to compare Minnesota high school hockey to other high school hockey experiences, I don't think it's a fair comparison. You got to kind of look what the vast majority of high school hockey experiences look like. So my number 3 is the comparison, the myth of Minnesota high school hockey versus everybody else. And everybody else is not the same experience for sure. We had kids in this program who play high school hockey down in Georgia, and they were like, "Oh man, it was a nightmare." It was like, you have out there, it was basically the Mighty Ducks. Kids are with no pads, they can't skate. So their only really option to play hockey was to play AAA or AA for whatever program they were playing with down south. And we have that experience in New Jersey when I was growing up. We had some good teams, and we had some good local teams that we were competing against, but it certainly wasn't like Minnesota high school hockey, and it certainly wasn't like the Ducks. So it's such a wide variety of experiences within that high school experience.
Right. And it's, as you said, it's different for every, region, every state. And, again, I think Minnesota does it the right way, but they've also been set up that way from kind of inception, where that model would work here in Illinois, would work here in other Midwest states. The problem is it's just we're so far along that there's too much buy-in that would be needed. And again, you'd be cutting off, a lot of these clubs, a lot of these guys who are getting paid full-time, hockey-wise. This is their career, and they're coaching 2 or 3, AA teams or 2 AAA teams. Well, hey, guess what? Now all of a sudden we're gonna cut your season short in the middle here. Then the kids will come back and play after high school. It's just too much. So yeah, I mean, Minnesota versus the world. I'm a big advocate of what they're doing is right. But it is tough to sell, and it's tough to compare one to the other, because it's just where you're born, where you live.
Absolutely. What do you got for number 4, Trevor?
Number 4 is, and again, a lot of this is, I've come to realize between what we've been talking about is, location based, but that, number 4 is that high school is does not provide a good route to, advanced hockey or advancing your hockey career. And I think that's false. I know a lot of out here, as I said before, it's a lot of kind of recruiting because there's no rules that say, a club team or AAA team can't recruit against a high school team. So in some sense, I've actually seen some of the better players in the state play for their high schools. And again, we're talking about the quality high school teams. And those kids move on, they play, tier 3, tier 2, where you've got some others that go and play AAA that they're done. They're burnt out because they're like, they've played hockey for so long. They never even got to that high school experience. So I don't think that it's fair to pigeonhole, high school hockey as something that can't provide a route for you further down, and it might not even be, juniors or Division I, Division II, Division III. It might just be ACHA hockey. I mean, that's right. Great. I'm not the person in the career you should use, but that's what I did. And a lot of my buddies did. We left high school and we went right to ACHA, D2 and D1, stuff like that. So, my stepbrother was one of those kids who played AAA growing up, and then I think his senior year he just went and he was actually in a private school academy that wasn't for hockey, but that's where they had a hockey team, and he went right into ACHA hockey. So there is a line of a line to the next level through high school, and it's not just through AAA and AA. I don't care what anyone says. Again, everybody, you got to navigate the course yourself. You got to figure out what fits best for you, for what you want to do. And then again, as we've talked about in other, episodes, you got to be your own advocate and try and find your own way to that next level. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I think that, playing high school hockey can be a really enriching experience. And if you're a kid who's on the fence about wanting to play at the next level, you can have a great high school hockey career that can reignite that passion and play in front of fans and family and part of a town community. So I don't think high school hockey closes any doors. I think it has the opportunity to open more doors sometimes.
Absolutely.
What I struggle with sometimes with regards to that is when coaches and states, governing bodies, put so many restrictions. I think we talked in an earlier episode about that rule in New Hampshire. If you miss anything related to a high school sport in favor of another outside school activity, that you're suspended from all school activities for 2 weeks. And that really hurts the product here in New Hampshire at the high school level. Kids have to choose one or the other, and it's a real struggle. We had a player in our league about 6 years ago. Actually, this past week, he was the Hockey East Player of the Week at Boston University. He's Matt Brown. He played in the EHL his first year of junior hockey. And while he was playing junior hockey, he also played for Tenafly High School in New Jersey. My buddy Andy Escala was the coach there, and they had a wagon with him, tearing it up. And, and I think on those kind of things, you just have to if instead of the state making a rule, why don't the coaches and the team say, we can welcome this kid or we cannot welcome this kid? If my culture says bringing in a kid and throw him on the power play doesn't work, but if he wants to be here and he's going to make practice and move that extra effort, well, then kudos to him. He deserves that.
Right.
So I think every situation is different. We've said that a bunch of times. But I think, giving more responsibility to the coaches and the players rather than making an arbitrary rule from the state representatives is your best bet. Another funny example, and I won't bore you with this one too much. We had a local high school coach here who I've probably referenced a couple times. He actually locked his kids. He would have a key to the locker room, and he locked his kids' sticks in a different room because he found that the kids were playing on the pond. They had a 1 hour practice. They didn't do any workouts or anything like that. They had 1 hour practice, and he thought the kids were tiring themselves out on the pond too much after, so he would lock their sticks in the locker room and not allow them to use it. And I thought that was the most embarrassing response a coach or an adult could ever have. No fun here.
Believe that
you
flew.
can't. We're gonna lock those things away.
That flew. Yeah.
So,
oh shit.
Stay out of your own way, coaches. Let kids be kids. Let them choose. Let them do what they want to do.
Out here we've, as you alluded to, the governing body, AHI, the American Hockey Association of Illinois, they kind of don't have their hands on the high school. Okay, you can or can't do this. It's more or less up to the clubs. And again, there are clubs that say, we'll allow you to double roster, play club and high school. And this year, for example, my team, I've got a couple kids that are double roster to play for their high schools. My rule though was hey, you know what? Your parents are paying a lot of money to play here, where at the high schools, knowing the high schools are at, it's not as serious. So it's my expectation is that you're going to be here for our practices and our games over the other team. Where there are coaches and clubs that are no, I mean, you're here or you're not playing for us. That's it. So, I kind of wish there was a little bit more flexibility. And again, it all comes back to I wish we had a better high school like the midget level. Wish we had a better, not curriculum, but like program set up where schedule wise so that we could do both, but we don't. But that's the only nice thing out here is that we do have that ability, that autonomy to kind of like decide what we want. But yeah, I don't think I would ever lock any kids' sticks up in another room just so they can't go have fun. I mean, that's
wild.
Holy cow, like old man yells at a cloud. Yeah.
uh,
What do you got for number 5 there, Coach?
Number 5 is Glory Days. Glory Days.
Oh yeah.
So my take on that is, high school hockey can be one of the most fun experiences of your hockey career. It can be one of the most enjoyable experiences. You grow up with these kids for, 12 years, all through your schooling experience. Don't be a parent that ruins it for the other parents. Don't be.
What do you mean by that?
Or don't be that. Don't be one of those things that could like get in the way of a kid's special experience playing high school hockey. We had a parent up here who there was a kid who was playing high school hockey, but he also was playing travel hockey. But the coach made it work, but he missed a practice for the high school team to go to a game for his travel team, and a coach on an opposing or a parent on an opposing team reported that to the state, so the kid couldn't play in the state playoffs. And I thought, and that's almost like the cat eye thing, like we were talking about. Like, do you really want to be that parent who wins that game for your kid that badly? Like, he missed a practice. He could have been sick. He could have had, kids miss practice for all sorts of reasons.
We're talking practice here, man.
But the kid was
practice.
The kid was missing practice because he wanted to get better at hockey,
practice.
Do more hockey.
Right.
Don't hold the kid back. Don't ruin that experience. And so I would say, if you can make if your prime hockey experience is your high school hockey experience, don't let anybody get in the way of that. Don't let parents get in the way of that. Administrators get in the way of that. Just go out and have your 4 years of glory, and that's it.
And again, I was fortunate again out here in Illinois. We've got a lot of, over the years, with the amount of AA clubs, even AAA teams that they've added in the last 15 years since I've graduated. Great, good, I remember that. But it's they've had a lot of schools that were like myself, where I went to Bartlett. We had a varsity and a JV. Well, Bartlett has to combine with 4 or 5 other schools now just to be able to have a team. So I mean, I was very fortunate that every kid that I played with in high school, and I played all 4 years, I was in high school with. I saw them every day, whether I liked them or not. That's a different story. But we all got those teammates, and hell, I might have been that one for most of them. But that being said, it was an awesome experience. And again, especially that freshman year when we went state and we were in the championship. Hockey's not considered a school sport. We can use it. It's a club still. We can use the team name, the school name, this and that. But they actually acknowledged us throughout the school. And that was a great experience. So you talk about those glory days, being able to be oh, you play on the hockey team. I mean, my biology teacher freshman year, she actually came out and watched one of the state games. And again, it's biology freshman year, first period. What is Trevor doing? Was
Trevor hot for teacher?
No. Well, she was a good-looking teacher. I won't lie about that. But no, there was no Van Halen in the background. But she came to the games because there's a couple freshmen on the team so she was there. But I was actually the one sitting in class who probably slept through most of the class anyways. But she comes in and she goes, after the game, she goes, I went and watched the high school game, the JV boys playing their state game last night. And she goes, none of you guys would know this, but, I know Trevor's always in back. He's quiet, but when he's on the ice, he's just a mad dog out there. And I was just like, no offense, it's only your class that I'm really this quiet and sleeping through. But, I mean, just even for the teachers to be involved, it was just, again, those glory days. I remember teams we played. I remember, the high schools and the games. And granted, I don't remember all the scores in every single game, but I remember all of that stuff. And it does. It was awesome. It was that experience. Nobody can ever take that away from you and away from us. My classmates. And as you said, as someone reporting, let them be kids. Let them have fun, at that age. And unless you've got rules in place, like where, okay, you got to pick one or the other, which, again, it depends on the situation. But again, as you said, those, I'm never going to forget that. Again, I'm still remembering that. And that was, almost 20 years ago when the teacher made that comment. And I was like, can you speak up a little louder for the hot girls in the back too? But like that types of stuff. But
well, just like we said, like we referenced a coach locking sticks away. We referenced a parent reporting kids in a state game. We referenced the rules that the state is putting in place so you prevents kids from getting more opportunities to play hockey. Check yourself. Sometimes human beings, check yourself. Like, we're talking about hockey and we're talking about kids having a great experience. Don't be the reason you ruined a kid's experience. Don't be the reason you ruined a team's experience. Allow them to have their moment in the sun. Allow them to have their glory days, and then you'll have another chance to ruin somebody else's life.
Right.
Well, give them their moment,
Right. No, and again, I agree. As I said, I agreed that sometimes I think we get in our well, not we, you and I, because we're perfect humans, but other people get in the way of, others, just step off, just step back, let them have it. So yeah, I agree. I loved, I miss my, a lot of things you look back and, you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this or that, or instead, but again, get one opportunity to play, high school hockey. I mean, unless you're, for 4 years, and, man, I mean, it was fun. It was a blast. And again, I've got those memories plus some others that I can or cannot share on the podcast. But nothing that's criminal activity, if anyone's listening. But yeah, so again, those days are great. And again, whenever I see those guys that I played with, if we're reminiscing, we've got that bond forever. That stories those situations. So yeah, I really enjoyed that those 5 myths there, and I hope everybody else did too. But anything else you want to talk about before we close out here for this week?
No, maybe we'll plan on fielding some questions for next week's next episode coming up. Hopefully, we address some topics this week with answering some questions about the route to college hockey, prep school hockey, high school hockey, travel hockey, academy hockey. Hopefully, we provided some clarity. It's a confusing space, though, and maybe if we get some questions from the audience and our Twitter followers, we can even tackle it a little even more in a future episode, because I know there's plenty of other coaches here on the East Coast who have a lot of great feedback and a lot of good insight.
No, definitely, yeah. And again, to those I asked about almost a month ago about what some hockey vocabulary you want us to try and dissect a little bit. I haven't forgotten about yet. We just haven't had a chance to fit it into the pod yet. So, but last thing, real quick, I just want to say that I have been enjoying the Hockey Planner little newsletters come out. We actually just did the Fairfield 2v1 the other day. What took about a minute for the kids to really get it, and then right after that, we went right into it full speed, and it's been added to my my practice. Some of my favorite, let's put it, we'll say practice drills.
That's
so,
great.
Anybody out there, please check the show notes as well as check out the Substack for the Hockey Planner. That's from Coach Trimble here. A lot of valuable and great information, as well as for everybody, parents, players, coaches, and I've already gained something out of it, and it was free for me. So, well, free for everybody.
Well, thank you very much. I like doing it. Like I like so that software we're talking about with or you put on. I think it was not the coach's site. What's the ice hockey systems? Like I'm not from doing. That's how I gather that information for drills better. Is like when it's on so I'm so used to seeing it drawn up with a dry erase. So
right.
my dad already said he replied back to one of the things. He's like, hey, you need a new dry erase board? I can get you a new dry erase board. Like, it makes sense to me. So I know like other coaches, it makes sense to. If I have like one of those
made perfect sense
with dots or like something that's computer based, it would take me longer to do it, and I probably wouldn't capture as much of it as I would just doing it the way I've always seen it, which is on the dry erase board. So
right.
that's why I'm doing it like that.
I mean, everybody's got their thing, but I think you should check your email from Ice Hockey Systems. There might be a gift for you there.
Oh, okay.
Not trying to hide anything here, but the guys at Ice Hockey Systems definitely hooked you up. So
I got to check that out.
But
check that out.
definitely, you should. But Yeah, it was great, and we enjoyed it. So,
Awesome.
but yeah, thanks for everybody for listening. So I'm Trevor DiCarlo,
Andrew Trimble.
and we will see you guys next time.